Alright, welcome back to WMMA Now with your host Chuck Stevenson, coming at you with a UFC fight review. This time we're going to Las Vegas, Nevada for UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Oleinik. We're going to the main card in the bantamweight division. Yana Kunitskaya coming in 12-5, taking on Julija Stoliarenko, coming in at 9-3-1. This was a battle between two former Invicta FC bantamweight champions. And Stoliarenko took this fight on, I believe, 2 weeks' notice. Kunitskaya was originally scheduled to face Ketlen Vieira, I believe, and then Vieira got moved back to fight Marion Renault at a later date. One thing I want to remark on, before the fight, when they announced her name, Stoliarenko did, you might have noticed this and not knowing what it was, she did what is the traditional salute in Burmese Letway. She took her left hand, tucked it under her right armpit, lifted her left leg, and slapped her left arm 3 times. And that's a traditional salute in Letway. I thought it was interesting and wanted to note on it because before then, I didn't think that Stoliarenko had any background in Letway. Although there are a decent number of Lithuanian fighters competing in that sport now as it grows. So just a little note I wanted to add there. Anyway, first round starts. Yana goes to the clinch early, took double underhooks and moved him to the fence. From there, Kunitskaya, she did really well controlling space. She only created enough to land knees, a lot of knees, elbows, and a lot of shoulder strikes as well to the face and head of Stoliarenko. Stoliarenko tried several times to jump guard and work a standing guillotine. Didn't really have any success with them. There was a mini firefight at the end of the round. Both started throwing fists and knees at each other. Second round, Kunitskaya caught a spinning kick from Julija, completely dumped her on the ground. That was just within the first 10 seconds. Kunitskaya, again though, she embraced the close clinch game, worked a lot more knees, a lot of shoulder strikes, and again, some elbows. It just seemed like Stoliarenko had no answer really in the clinch up until she jumped guard and was finally able to pull Kunitskaya to the ground. Now, Stoliarenko did latch an armbar on. It wasn't completely deep though. It was latched on, but I don't think it was deep enough, and Kunitskaya was ultimately able to defend it, and that's how the round ended. Third round, so this time Stoliarenko came out and rushed at Kunitskaya, but Kunitskaya just took the momentum and spun Stoliarenko around and pushed her to the fence. Stoliarenko pulled Yana down into her guard. This time, Kunitskaya on the ground, she was controlling space on the ground too, almost like she was fighting a clinch game, but on the ground. She kept very tight, really stopped Stoliarenko from working for subs, and eventually forced the ref to stand it up. From there, it was more clinch work from Stoliarenko. From Kunitskaya. More clinch work from Kunitskaya. While Stoliarenko, on the other hand, Julija, desperately tried to take the fight back to the ground, wrapping her legs around, trying to pull her down. Got her down like real short, or no, I'm sorry. Stoliarenko even tried to basically flop to the ground, and Kunitskaya had none of it. Went back to the center for the final 30 seconds where both threw strikes at range. A lot of clinch work in this fight. So went to the judges. All 3 found it for Yana Kunitskaya. 2 of them gave her 30-27 scores. Third judge gave her a 30-26. He gave Kunitskaya the second round 10-8. So big win, or very dominant win for Yana Kunitskaya. Big improvement in the clinch for Yana, I thought. You know, she's working with her boyfriend, Tiago Maheta Santos, who's a big Muay Thai stylist, MMA fighter, gave John Jones one of his toughest fights. Working with him has definitely paid off big time for her. Big improvement in the clinch. Also, I want to note that Kunitskaya, she is deceptively strong for her frame and appearance. Now, she looks like one of those girls that she's tall and skinny, looks like the kind of girl you'd see at the gym who doesn't lift a lot of like heavy weights, mostly lifts lighter weights, a lot of reps, just to like, you know, keep a toned appearance. Don't buy into that look. That woman is very strong for her frame. I mean, she can get you in a clinch and just basically hold you against the cage if she wanted to, but she didn't here. She threw a lot of strikes. Stoliarenko, on the other hand, she really looked like a one-trick pony in this fight. And, you know, we knew she was going to go in there and try to go for an armbar, and that's pretty much what she did, made it known that's all she really had out there. So yeah, she looks like a one-trick pony. You know, she gets denied the armbar. From then on, she's forced to fight on her opponent's terms. Now, the key word to this fight was space. Controlling space, creating space, denying space. And in all three of those aspects, Yana Kunitskaya won big. She controlled how much space there was in the clinch. She created space when she needed to land her own strikes, and then she denied space on the ground for Stoliarenko to work for submissions or to work for sweeps. So for things to work on, for Kunitskaya, she still seemed vulnerable striking at range. Now, there was very limited segments of this fight where they were striking at range, but to me, Kunitskaya still looked vulnerable there. She might be worried about her, you know, the broken nose she suffered against Renaud a couple fights back. So she needs to work on striking at range, which she's working with Thiago Santos. He's going to be helping her a lot with that. For Stoliarenko, needs to work on her clinch fighting. She needs to start fighting for underhooks more, fight for an over-under, so that she can then use the weight and force a turnout to get onto the outside against the fence. And then she needs to work on making space to work strikes in the clinch. Biggest thing she needs to do, though, is stop going for one obvious move. I mean, it's now known that she's going to go out there and look for the armbar. So she needs to learn some new tricks, learn some different submissions to go for besides just making it obvious that she's going to go out there and look for that fast armbar, because she's going to start getting denied it every time. She's not Ronda Rousey. She doesn't have the ability to do that against higher level opponents. Alternatively, though, she could learn to hide the armbar setup behind other things. You know, she can learn to look like she's setting up something else and hide the armbar setup, making it look like she's working for one thing, but then when the opponent reacts to that, then she can set up the armbar. So she needs to just learn to either A, learn new tricks, or B, learn different ways to set it up. Now, for fights to make, for Stoliarenko, you know, she lost her first fight back in the UFC. She had one fight previously at the end of the last season of Ultimate Fighter. But she was still the Invicta champ. I'd like to see her take the loser of Sijara Eubanks versus Macy Chiasson. The loser of that fight will be down at the bottom of the rankings. I believe Eubanks is at the bottom of the rankings right now. I still think Stoliarenko is good, just good enough to have a chance to fight for, you know, the bottom run of the rankings. For Kunitskaya, I'd like to see her take on the winner of Ketlen Vieira versus Marion Renaud. I believe that's the fight that's worked up. Okay, just looked it up on Topology. That is the fight that's scheduled. Vieira versus Renaud. If Vieira wins, let her take on Vieira. That's like, I believe, one step above her in the rankings. It'll allow Yana to, you know, try to keep moving up the rankings. If Renaud wins, then you set up a good rematch of a fight that was very good. A lot of people thought that, I don't want to say a lot, but there was definitely a contingent that thought Kunitskaya lost that fight based on the third round where Renaud was able to break her nose. But in the end, Kunitskaya did come away the winner. So either winner of that fight would make for a good fight against Yana Kunitskaya. Okay, so those are my thoughts on the fight. One comparison I saw a lot on a couple forums and Twitter, a lot of people were comparing this fight to the Jorge Masvidal Kamaru Usman fight, and we're calling Kunitskaya like a female Usman because I kept saying all she wanted to do was wall install. Okay, Kunitskaya threw a lot more strikes than Usman did against Masvidal, and also Kunitskaya threw a bigger variety. Usman was mostly just throwing foot stomps with the occasional strike to the body. Kunitskaya was throwing a lot of knees, a lot of shoulder strikes, and working in some elbows as well. I just don't see the comparison here. I thought this fight was way more entertaining than Usman versus Masvidal was. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on the fight in the comments down below. Of course, if you liked the video, please give it a like and share it as well. And what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA Now, the most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.